Story 1. For context, I started working part-time in a charity kennel where we rehome dogs from the pound. Usually, there are just two of us working, me and the kennel manager. The kennel itself is composed of 3 small buildings where we keep dogs and a fence with a double gate at the front. One of the buildings stretches just outside the fence with a small window looking straight at one of the dogs. On this day, we had received a cabinet donation that someone had left out in their garden. Since we had some use for it, the kennel manager asked me to wash and scrub it since it was filthy, while she walked the next dog on the list. I grabbed my earbuds and got to work disassembling and scrubbing it in the courtyard, catching up on the latest Reddit reading podcast when in my periphery I saw the entitled Dad and Kid. They had apparently just walked up and were looking into the open kennel window, squeaking a ball at the dog inside. I took out my earbuds and this conversation ensued. Me, can I help you? Entitled Dad, we're here to pick up our dog, Spot. Me, sorry, we don't have any dogs named Spot here. Jake, but he's right there, we can see him through the window. He looks exactly like he did on the listing. Give us our dog now. Me, like I said, we don't have any dogs called Spot here. That's Jess. Are you sure you're at the right place? Entitled Dad, yes, this is the address we were given. Me, okay, who did you talk to? What's the name of the company or person? Entitled Dad, I don't know. Me, okay, I don't think I will be able to help you. Why don't you wait for my manager to come back in around 15-20 minutes? She'll be able to sort you out. Entitled Dad, okay, we'll wait. And they walked off. I put my earbuds in and continued working. Not even 10 minutes later, the entitled kid came back with his phone in his hand. I took out my earbuds and he told me his mom was on the other end and wanted to talk to me. Entitled Mom, why are you keeping our dog away from us? Let me talk to Vanessa. Me, hello to you too. I'm sorry, we don't have any Vanessa working here, nor in the office associated with us. Entitled Mom, Vanessa told me to come here. This is the address we were given, so stop messing with us and just give us our dog. Me, I told you, no Vanessa works here. We don't have any viewings organized for today either. What's the name of the company you're looking for? Entitled Mom, we organized it with X Charity. Why are you making this so difficult? Me, Miss, we're not affiliated with X Charity at all. You have the wrong place. Entitled Mom, stop lying. My kids saw the dog through your window. This is the address we were given and we'll get our dog today. At this point, I saw my manager rounding the corner and just told the lady to talk to her, since she'd be able to help her more. I walked up to my manager, gave her a really quick summary and apology for what was about to come and handed over the phone. I didn't hear the conversation, but I was later told that she had a similar conversation in a very argumentative tone with the lady on the line. She doesn't take nonsense and told her to tone it down so they could figure this out. And they eventually got to the conclusion that the family was looking for the kennels on the other side of the parking lot. The father and kid walked off, no apology or anything. A few minutes later, I saw my manager glued to the fence, and she called me to come watch with her. Looking to the other side of the parking lot, we saw the family walking out of the other kennel with their new dog, Spot. Spot was a smallish Shih Tzu. Jess is a massive Shiba and Staffordshire Bull Terrier mix. Confused looks were shared with my manager. Story 2. It all started on a regular Tuesday at the grocery store where I work as a cashier. I was going about my day, scanning items and chatting with customers, when she walked in. The woman, who I'll call Karen, strode up to my register with a cart full of groceries. She had this air about her, like she owned the place. I put on my best customer service smile and greeted her. Me, hello, did you find everything okay today? Karen, scoffs, I suppose. Your store layout is absolutely ridiculous. I couldn't find anything. I bit my tongue and started scanning her items. As I scanned a package of chicken, she suddenly gasped dramatically. Karen, stop. That's not the price I saw on the shelf. It's supposed to be half off. Me? I'm sorry, ma'am, but our chicken isn't on sale this week. Maybe you saw a different brand? Karen, are you calling me a liar? I know what I saw. Get your manager right now. I sighed internally, but kept my composure. I called my manager over the intercom, and he arrived a few moments later. Manager, what seems to be the problem here? Karen, your incompetent cashier is trying to overcharge me for this chicken. It's supposed to be half off. My manager looked at me, and I shook my head slightly. He turned back to Karen with a patient smile. Manager, I'm sorry for the confusion, ma'am, but we don't have any chicken on sale this week. Perhaps you saw a different product. Karen, this is unacceptable. I demand to speak to the store owner. Manager, ma'am, I am the highest-ranking person in the store right now. I can assure you that. Karen, interrupting fine. I'll take my business elsewhere. You've lost a valuable customer today. She stormed out, leaving her entire cart of groceries behind. My manager and I exchanged looks of disbelief. Manager, don't worry about it. Some people are just impossible to please. I nodded and started putting the items back, thinking that was the end of it. Oh, how wrong I was. The next day, I was restocking shelves when I heard a familiar voice at the customer service desk. To my horror, it was Karen, and she was causing a scene. Karen, I demand to speak to whoever's in charge. Your cashier was extremely rude to me yesterday, and I want her fired. I froze, my heart racing. The customer service rep looked overwhelmed, so I quickly radioed my manager. He arrived just as Karen spotted me. Karen, there she is. That's the girl who insulted me and tried to overcharge me. My manager stepped between us, trying to defuse the situation. Manager, ma'am, I was there yesterday, and I can assure you that our cashier was nothing but professional. Karen, are you calling me a liar? I'll have you know my husband is a lawyer, and will sue this entire store for defamation. At this point, other customers were starting to stare. I felt my face burning with embarrassment, even though I knew I hadn't done anything wrong. Manager, please, let's take this conversation to my office. Karen, no, I want everyone to hear how poorly you treat your customers. Just then, an elderly woman who had been watching the scene unfold stepped forward. Elderly woman, excuse me, but I was behind this lady in line yesterday. The cashier was nothing but polite, even when this woman was being unreasonable. Karen's face turned an alarming shade of red. Karen, how dare you? You weren't even there. Elderly woman, I most certainly was, and I have half a mind to report you for harassing this poor girl. Karen looked around, realizing she was losing her audience. With a final huff, she stormed out of the store again, leaving us all in stunned silence. I thought that would be the last I'd see of Karen, but fate had other plans. A week later, I was leaving work when I noticed her in the parking lot, arguing with someone on her phone. Karen, yelling into her phone, no, you listen to me. I don't care if it's after hours. I need to speak to the regional manager right now. She was so engrossed in her conversation that she didn't notice me. I tried to hurry to my car, but luck wasn't on my side. She spotted me and ended her call abruptly. Karen, this is all your fault. Me? Excuse me. Karen, because of you, I've been banned from this store. Do you have any idea how inconvenient this is for me? I was shocked. I hadn't heard anything about her being banned, but I couldn't say I was surprised. Me, I'm sorry, but I don't have any control over that decision. Maybe if you spoke to the manager. Karen, interrupting I've tried. They won't listen to reason. You need to go in there right now and tell them to lift this ridiculous ban. Me, I'm sorry, but I can't do that. I'm off the clock, and it's not my decision to make. Karen, you ungrateful little. Do you know how much money I've spent in this store over the years? You owe me. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. This woman's sense of entitlement was off the charts. Me, ma'am, I don't owe you anything. Please leave me alone, or I'll have to call security." "Karen, you wouldn't dare." But I was already pulling out my phone. Seeing this, Karen's demeanor suddenly changed. "Karen, wait, I'm sorry, okay? I really need to shop here. It's the closest store to my house." For a moment, I almost felt sorry for her. Almost. I understand, but that doesn't excuse your behavior. If you want to shop here again, you'll need to apologize to the manager and promise to treat the staff with respect. Karen, scoffs, apologize. To him? Never. And just like that, any sympathy I had vanished. I shook my head and started walking to my car. "Karen, you can't just walk away from me. I'm not done talking to you." But I was done listening. I got in my car and drove away, leaving Karen fuming in the parking lot. I thought that would be the end of it. But Karen had one last surprise in store. A few days later, I arrived at work to find my manager waiting for me with a concerned look on his face. "Manager, hey, can I talk to you for a minute?" My heart sank. Had Karen somehow gotten me in trouble? "Manager, I got a call from corporate this morning. Apparently, someone has been leaving negative reviews about you online." He showed me his phone, and sure enough, there were several one-star reviews mentioning me by name, all posted by K. Smith. It didn't take a genius to figure out who that was. It's that woman from last week, isn't it? The one who got banned? "Manager, that's what I figured. Don't worry, I've explained the situation to corporate. They're not taking these reviews seriously." I felt a mix of relief and frustration. How could someone be so petty? What should we do? Manager, well, we can't stop her from posting reviews, but we can respond to them professionally, and if she shows up here again, we'll call the police for trespassing. I nodded, feeling a bit better about the situation. As I started my shift, I couldn't help but wonder what drove someone to behave like Karen. Was she just having a bad day that first time, or was this how she always acted? Throughout the day, I kept an eye out for Karen, half expecting her to try sneaking into the store. But she never showed up. Instead, I had a surprisingly pleasant shift, with several customers going out of their way to be kind to me. One elderly gentleman even said, "I saw those ridiculous reviews online. Don't let it get you down, dear. Some people just can't be pleased." His words stuck with me, reminding me that for every entitled Karen out there, there were plenty of kind, reasonable people too. As I finished my shift and headed home, I felt a sense of closure. I knew I might encounter other difficult customers in the future, but I also knew I could handle it. Story 3. I was picking out some supplies for the week when I noticed a child trying frantically to climb a shelf to get at a case of energy drink, so I reached up and grabbed it for her. I handed it to her. She smiled, said thanks, and ran off. As she ran off, she tripped, sending cans flying and getting sprayed from the popping cans. The poor thing started freaking out a bit while I picked up the cans and tried to calm her down. Little did I know she was not freaking out because she felt bad for making a mess. "What in the world are you doing?" a thieving teenager in training yelled from down the aisle. Next thing I knew, I saw this 17-year-old girl storming down the aisle. "Thieving teenager, why on earth are you crying? I told you to get me a case of energy drink and meet me at the car." It is okay, she just tripped and is a bit freaked out she made a mess. "Thieving teenager, who in the world are you?" I was just helping her get it down before she. "Thieving teenager, why did you knock her down? You cannot do that." I did not do anything. I was just helping her. "Thieving teenager, you just messed up. Where is your manager? Get me your manager." What are you talking about? I do not W. "Thieving teenager, be quiet. You just hurt my sister and I am going to sue your store." As she was screaming at me, the manager of the store walked up. He saw a mess of cans and energy drink on the floor, a little girl crying, and an angry teen screaming at a 30-year-old guy. "Store manager, what is going on here?" "Thieving teenager, Your incompetent employee just stopped my little sister from grabbing that case of energy drink and hurt her. I am going to sue you now." The store manager looked over to me and asked, "What happened?" I told him I had no clue. I just handed the little sister the case, and she took off and tripped. He then walked over to the little sister. "Are you okay? What happened?" The little sister wiped back tears. "I did not want to. She made me." "She made you do what?" the store manager asked. "She made me take it. I was supposed to grab it and take it to the car." The thieving teenager chimed in. "It does not matter. Your stupid employee hurt her trying to stop her. I am going to sue you for assaulting my sister." He then reached down and held the little girl's hand. "It is okay. Let us get you cleaned up." He motioned for the assistant manager that came by to see what was going on. He told her to take the little girl to the back room to get cleaned up. Thieving teenager, you think this is going to save you? We are still going to sue no matter what you do. She then followed the assistant manager and little sister into the back. The store manager then asked for me to follow him to the front of the store, where he flagged down the police cruiser sitting in the parking lot. I do not live in a nice area. They called another car in and the store manager, and I watched the thieving teenager being taken away kicking and screaming. "What are you doing? Employees cannot touch you. He hurt my sister. Arrest him. Little sister, they hurt you. Tell them." The little sister did not say a word and just watched while she clung to the assistant manager. The store manager informed the police officers I did not work for him and that I did not try to stop the little sister. He showed them the security tapes, so I was in the clear. The officers then took a statement from me and let me go. It turns out their mother was an irresponsible person that did not care about them and was never home. The thieving teenager was abusing her sister and forcing her to steal for her. Child Protective Services was called and took the little sister out of that horrible situation. Once she was safe, she told them everything, and the thieving teenager was charged with child abuse and sent to juvenile detention. Story 4. Here's the rewritten content with grammatical and punctuation errors fixed, proper paragraph separation, and expanded acronyms. I work for a visitor attraction in London. Generally, we are out on the floor answering questions and so on. We had a dedicated team that worked in the control room, usually supervisors or those who wanted to become supervisors. Normally 1 or 2 people were in the control room. They were never ever on the floor if they could help it. They watched the closed-circuit television and controlled the breaks, lunches, and so forth. For instance, if a visitor set off an alarm, they would call us, and we would investigate the alarm. Management decided to pull the supervisors out onto the floor and train floor personnel to be in the control room. It was a good idea on paper, but in practice, supervisors did not want to go on the floor, and those on the floor did not want to go into the control room. Some of us already worked in the control room, as we relieved them for breaks, lunches, and so on. Basically, if you were in the control room, you stayed in there. The first training week went something like this. Someone who knew the control room was training 3 or 4 of the floor people. Needless to say, that put us short-staffed on the floor, and management had to go on the floor to cover. As they thought, how hard could it be? It will only be a week, then I can go back to my cushy desk job. On the first day, I was training 3 or 4 floor staff, and management supervisors were on the floor. Management told me to treat them like normal floor staff. Okay, no problem. I asked everyone that I was training. Normal floor staff, we all got big smiles on our faces. Not even 10 minutes went by, and a radio call came in. "Can one of you bring the keys for the front door so we can let the public in?" It's a 5-minute walk from control to the front door. I radioed one of the management on the floor. "Come to control and pick up the keys and take them to the front door." I got a phone call. "Just have so-and-so bring them over. There are 4 of you in there." As per procedure, nobody is allowed out of the control room. Management took 5 minutes to get to control and then took the keys over to the front door. So we were late opening. Next radio call. "Which key is it?" "It's number Roman 20. They opened the doors. The alarm went off. Control, why did the alarm go off? You need to call control to let us know exactly when to take the alarm off. That's the procedure. All of this is written down. Procedures must be followed. Now that the public was in, alarms started going off for various reasons. The public loves going through doors that say, "Door is alarmed." Normal stuff. I started radio calls to management on the floor. Charlie 3 go to door X. Charlie 3 go to door X, and so on. Delta 4 relieved Charlie 3 for their lunch. At lunchtime, I got phone calls from people who had not been relieved for their lunch on time. Management had not figured out that travel time between your post and the break area is not included in your lunch break. If you have an hour lunch and it takes you 10 minutes walking time to get there, then basically your lunch is 40 minutes. 10 minutes to go from your post to the break room and 10 minutes to go back to your post. Normal control room staff knew this and would start lunches early to give everyone as much as possible a full lunch. More radio calls. Charlie 3, can you check the toilet? Report of water on the floor. Charlie 3, can you go to X? Visitor wants to use a voucher. Actually, Charlie 3, go to door X, but I'm with a visitor. Doors take priority, Charlie 3. For the rest of the day, we ran management ragged. Everything in the procedures was adhered to. Count the empty spaces in the car park. Check locks on the emergency gates. Check toilets, men's and women's, to see if they need to be refilled with toilet paper. Look for lights out. Fill in your task book, and so on. The next day, needless to say, I was not in the control room. It did not matter. The tone was set. It did not matter who was in there. The rest of the week went by the same. Everyone who followed me ran management nuts. Management, to their credit, changed some things after that. Black sneakers can now be worn. More break rooms closer to posts have been opened. Procedures have been loosened up. Control people are back in control, and floor people are on the floor. Everyone is now trained in the control room, but they only have to work it if they want. It was still a glorious week. Story 5. I was approaching 40s, and I had learned numerous lessons in over 10 years of legal practice. However, one of the most crucial lessons came from an older lawyer I worked for as a summer student after my second year of law school. A lawyer has 3 duties, he told me. First to himself, second to the court, and last, the client. Always ensure you come first, and the client comes last. The reason? Because clients will betray you, he said. They will sacrifice you without a second thought. I should have stayed with this lawyer, but being young and naive, I had to go work downtown. I am still downtown now, but fortunately for me, I remembered this lesson, and it proved useful many years later when a client indeed tried to sacrifice me. My client was a mid-sized company that engaged in various activities and owned assets in different locations. It was not large enough to be publicly listed, but it did possess a considerable real estate portfolio. One day, a building they owned burned to the ground. The company wanted to collect on the insurance, so they instructed Frank, a veteran salaried employee, to handle it. Frank was nearly 60 and believed he knew what he was doing. He told me he did not need my assistance with the insurance claim. He had everything under control. Besides, lawyers are expensive. Some individuals really enjoy avoiding legal fees, and Frank was one of those people who took pride in every penny he managed not to pay to lawyers. I dealt with Frank frequently, and he was always trying to minimize expenses. The insurer is going to deceive you, I warned Frank. It was only by chance that I even knew about the fire and the loss because Frank had not requested my help. He had merely mentioned it in passing one day. Since then, I had been persistent, trying to get him to wise up. I had to struggle to get him to send me the proof of loss form to ensure he had not made a mistake. Frank made many errors, and I sometimes wondered how he maintained his job. However, the proof of loss was acceptable, at least, so that was one less concern. "You do not know that," he replied. I could tell he just wanted to end the phone call. "I am paid to recognize when insurers are attempting to cheat my clients," I said, "and the insurer is going to cheat you. They have been delaying you for ages with requests, questions and paperwork. But they are not going to pay you, not unless you take legal action against them. But Frank insisted he knew what he was doing, that everything was under control, and besides, he got along with the adjuster so well. The limitation period expires in 2 weeks, I said, and once those 2 weeks pass, it will be too late to sue. The moment that limitation period expires, they will stop taking your calls. You will receive a final email saying sorry, you are out of time, and that will be that. Do not leave this until the last minute. Let me file a lawsuit right now, and you will have the money in no time. Frank responded with vague assurances and quickly ended the call. I sent him the usual email with clear warnings and recommendations, which he ignored. I sent the email again, and then again as the limitation period approached, and once more a couple of days before the deadline. I am going to be at trial, and you will not be able to reach me, my final email said. But you have to sue. You have other firms on your list, so choose one and take legal action. He did not bother to reply, and I went off to conduct my trial. The trial lasted a couple of weeks, and there was no email from Frank. Then a month passed, and another month, still no email. I assumed he must have resolved the issue. Maybe Frank was right after all, I said to myself, and then my phone rang. It was Frank. Remember that fire insurance matter we discussed? We had only spoken about it around a dozen times. I thought he was calling to boast, so I cut to the chase. So they paid out. That is great, Frank. You were right. He asked me what I was talking about, and could he see a copy of the claim. What claim? I said. The claim against the insurer. You know, that claim. Does that mean the insurer did not pay? I said. He hung up on me, and then a few minutes later, my computer chimed, and there was Frank's email stating that we had spoken, and he had told me to sue, and he was concerned when I had not sent him a copy of the claim, so he was following up to get a copy of the claim. I emailed him back. I take it that the insurer did not pay you, just as I told you they would not, and now that the limitation period has expired, they told you to go away, leaving you with a loss in the millions. Is that correct? I had made a mistake by not going over Frank's head when he would not listen to me, but if I had done so, I never would have received another file from him. But that was then, and this was now, so I copied Frank's boss and his boss's boss, plus I copied Bill, the client's in-house counsel. Bill acknowledged my email right away and called me later that day. Frank made a mistake, he said. We know that. He is incompetent. So what do we do? So his excuses did not work. No. Bill explained that they had summoned Frank to a boardroom, but his story did not add up, given all the warnings I had sent him. Besides, there would have been no reason for him to keep emailing the insurer if he had told me to sue. Once the file goes to legal counsel, Frank's role was over. The company knew Frank was not being truthful with them. So that is it, then, Bill said. We just lost a couple of $1 million. It is okay, I said, explaining that when I realized Frank was going to make a mistake, I filed a claim against the insurer. Because I had made Frank send me the proof of loss earlier, I had enough information to sue to preserve the cause of action. Not an ideal claim and lacking details, but sufficient. You sued without instructions, Bill said. Lawyers are not supposed to sue without instructions because if you do that, you are personally liable for whatever costs the other side incurs. It is a significant risk to sue without instructions. Yes, I said. I sued without instructions. I retrieved a copy of the claim and emailed it to him as we spoke. It is a little rough, I said, but we can always amend. Thank goodness, Bill said. Can I leave it with you? Of course he could. The insurer was in a vulnerable position, and I knew I would collect from them without difficulty. A few days later, I received a call from another employee of the client, someone I did not normally deal with. They had a situation and needed my help. I usually deal with Frank, I said. What is the matter? The issue was that Frank had been called into another meeting, where they handed him a one-page letter. He then put his small office belongings in a box, and security escorted him past his co-workers to the elevator and accompanied him downstairs to the parking lot. Farewell, Frank. He was too old to secure another job, or at least, not a decent one. It was a life-altering event for Frank. But for me, he was just an anecdote, a cautionary tale that I sometimes share with young lawyers over beverages, perhaps too frequently, because I am getting older and I have my favorite stories. I was not trying to seek retribution against Frank, not at all, and I would have felt somewhat sorry for him if he had not been attempting to blame me. But the person who replaced him was excellent and never tried to minimize expenses, so it all worked out well. Story 6. I've been a field organizer for quite some time now, and I've had my fair share of interesting experiences. But this one particular incident stands out in my memory. It happened a few years ago when I found myself working under a new manager who, ironically, had explicitly stated she didn't want to manage anyone. Life has a funny way of working out sometimes, doesn't it? When we first met, I made sure to give her a comprehensive rundown of my work. I showed her where to find my weekly, monthly, quarterly, and annual reports. I explained how she could keep track of my whereabouts and how to provide feedback between our monthly check-ins. I thought I was being thorough and professional. However, it quickly became apparent that she wasn't used to working with field organizers. The concept of me not being in the office except for meetings and to turn in reports seemed to shock her. Now, I understand that not everyone is familiar with how field work operates, but what she said next really took me by surprise. "Manager, if you're not in the office where I can see you, how will I know you're working? You could be doing anything you want, and I'd never know." I was taken aback by this statement. Not only did it make some pretty unflattering assumptions about my character, but it also showed a fundamental misunderstanding of how work should be measured. The appearance of working is a terrible metric for actual productivity. But I bit my tongue and decided to take a different approach. Me? Well, if it would make you more comfortable, I could have my task tracking app send you an email whenever I accomplish a task. Manager: Yes, that would be good. Let's do that. Little did she know what she was getting herself into. You see, I've always been a fast worker. It's just how I'm wired. In the past, this has caused some friction with coworkers. I tend to create backlogs and sometimes make others feel uncomfortable about their own productivity. Over the years, I've learned to either pace myself or find jobs where my speed isn't so out of the ordinary. This particular job fell into the latter category. We were doing underfunded community-driven work where the success or failure of a project could mean the difference between our clients being able to pay rent or afford food. In other words, the stakes were high, and I was motivated to work as efficiently as possible. So, I set up the task tracking app to send her an email every time I completed a task. Day 1 rolled around, and I got to work as usual. By lunchtime, I could already imagine her inbox filling up. By the end of the day, I knew she must have received hundreds of emails. Day 2 was much the same. Every completed phone call, every finished report, every successful meeting all documented and sent straight to her inbox. I almost felt bad, but then I remembered her initial skepticism about my work ethic. On the third day, just before lunch, I received a call from her. Manager: Hi, can you come to my office for a moment? Me: Of course, I'll be right there. When I arrived, she looked a bit frazzled. Her computer screen was open to her email, and I could see the flood of notifications from my task tracker. Manager: About the task tracking emails. Me: Yes. Is there a problem? Manager: I think we can stop those now. I can see that you're very productive. I tried to hide my smile as I nodded. Me: Are you sure? I thought you wanted to know I was working. Manager: I'm sure. I don't need to know every single thing you do. Your reports will be sufficient. Me: All right, if you're sure, I'll turn off the notifications right away. As I left her office, I couldn't help but feel a small sense of satisfaction, not because I had proven her wrong or made her uncomfortable, but because we had cleared the air. From that point on, our working relationship improved significantly. In fact, over time, we actually became good friends. We discovered we had a lot in common, particularly our frustration with some of the higher-ups who kept making questionable decisions. They seemed to rely on us to solve their problems because they knew we were both competent enough to do so. Manager: can you believe what they're asking us to do now? Me: I know, it's ridiculous, but we'll figure it out, we always do. Manager: you're right. I'm glad I have you on my team. We often found ourselves teaming up against these other bosses, working together to find solutions to the problems they created. It wasn't always easy, but having each other's support made it more manageable. Manager: how do they expect us to complete this project with half the budget? Me: I've got some ideas. Want to brainstorm over lunch? Manager: absolutely. Your treat since you're saving so much on office supplies by never being here. We both laughed at that. It had become a running joke between us, a reminder of how far we'd come from that initial misunderstanding. Our friendship continued to grow even after we both moved on to better opportunities. We still keep in touch, sharing stories about our new jobs and reminiscing about our time working together. Ex-manager: remember when you flooded my inbox with task notifications? Me: how could I forget? Your face when you called me into your office was priceless. Ex-manager: I learned my lesson about judging productivity by FaceTime that day. Me: and I learned the power of malicious compliance. We both laugh, appreciating how that initial conflict led to a lasting friendship. Looking back, I'm grateful for that experience. It taught me the importance of clear communication and the danger of making assumptions. It also showed me that sometimes the best way to prove yourself is simply to do your job well and let the results speak for themselves.